My name is Brian Pillman Jr. and you're watching Dre 41 Gaming. Now I'm a little partial to this gaming channel because 41 is my magic number. It was my number in football and it was my father's football number. So you can bet that Brian Pillman Jr. is going to be tuning in to Dre 41 Gaming only on YouTube.
All right, what's up, y'all? It is Dre 41 and Sean Styles, and welcome to another episode of the Let's Talk podcast. On this episode today, we have a call creating legend, community creations legend. So let's just put it out there. We have Nick Breaker, aka Nick. What's going on, man?
It's all good. It's a pleasure to be here, gentlemen. Thank you for having me all the way from Scotland.
Yeah, the time difference. The scheduling, it's always a fun thing to do when you're 5 hours ahead.
And for someone like you to call me a legend as well, Trey, that's made my day, my friend.
Well, I mean, I think you've probably been in it longer than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, probably, maybe.
I think I'm on 16 years officially doing formulas. And
yeah.
I was gonna say at least. Dude, did you catch on the end of the PS2 days, like on the SmackDown versus Raw? I thought so. Okay, so that's my recollection of how far back I remember seeing your work. Is the SVR days, and then transitioning over. Now, were you on PS3 or 360 when that kind of midlife of the SmackDown versus Raw games came along?
Yeah, I was on 360 for, I think, between 12 and 14, 15 or something.
Dre and I too, yeah.
Yeah, that was the transitional days of in-game work and then bringing in the textures, injecting the textures, Brian J, the Xbox hacking portal. That whole revolution was an exciting time to be part of everything.
Yeah. Right. I mean that it was because it seemed like everybody was coming out with their very best, and it was like everyone was challenging each other. And I feel like that's something that we don't really see anymore. I think it was more of a versus sort of deal as opposed to now where it's like everybody's helping each other out.
Yeah, I think we're better for it. I think we're better for that. It was kind of like a mob mentality, blood in, blood out back in the day. Like, if you didn't know somebody or, were friends with somebody, you kind of, I feel like it was hard to kind of get in with the community back in the day because formulas were very protected. I remember when community creations first came out, a lot of COD creators were questioning whether or not they were going to continue to release content because, you could simply download a creation, look underneath the hood, so to speak, and kind of recreate it and upload it as your own. And that was a big concern for a lot of people who take the time to put in their work and, have it just kind of replicated. You have any thoughts on that, Nick?
I do, yeah. So, 2K19, my goodness, that we'll maybe talk about the legacy of that game, but I remember through the duration of this, we had a couple of really good creators bow out. Guys that were making masks and lucha creators bow out because people could just import the whole attire onto a blank COD and stick it back up. And all of a sudden, they've got a Justin Thunder Liger on CC, which is 10 out of 10. And it's a Wild West. I like the idea of honor amongst thieves, right? Where, we used to trade and borrow. And I know, Dre, you've got your team going with some stuff. And I'm obviously representing INDP here. Yep. But, I'm an old man now, I'm 36. I don't want to be getting into any car beef with people on the internet that I don't know. And we were talking, before we hit record, we were talking about people hiding behind avatars and stuff. It's like, you don't know who these people are, man. It could be a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah.
If I met this person in the street, I would not get in an argument with them.
Oh, of course not.
So yeah, there was always a bit of gatekeeping, and you see that in all businesses when there's innovation. People want to hold on to something new and protect that IP, right? Yeah. But we're at the stage of the game now where, what's that expression? The rising tides lifts all boats. And the more people that have the education and the knowledge and are sharing resources and best practice, the better it's going to be for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of what some of the newer creators out there don't realize is that it's changed from back in those days. And if you simply, I mean, we're very accessible as creators. You know, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram. We're very accessible, and as a community, I think we went from kind of gatekeeping and really wanting to protect what's ours to reaching out and trying to help people learn. Because I think, I mean, the more people learn how to create wrestlers, the better our games and community is going to be because of the content that's created. And I think some of your recent projects is perfect example of that. You know, I kind of want to start out now. I don't know the story behind the ECW lives or the indie spirit, but I had an idea in my head of kind of where that all came from. And I'm trying to see if I was right. So back, I want to say maybe a year and a half ago, there was this kind of unknown name, I would say, Kells, who created the WCW project. And man, I mean, as far as I know, it was a one-man team, and he just blew through the entire WCW roster. Is that where you guys kind of got your inspiration from to release these huge projects, or was that already in the work before that WCW project hit Community Creations?
So, what a great question. So, my Twitter handle is NickBreaker NCO, and the NCO was the new Call Order, which was just a terrible name. Like, I've learned so much about branding and marketing since then, but that was the original kind of call team I was part of for WWE 13. And I think we did a couple of really focused projects on like the original NXT, like the Florida style, Florida Championship Wrestling kind of level up. So we had done stuff then, but we weren't releasing packs all at one time. We just released stuff when it was ready. And we had arena creators, we had Righteous doing the movesets, and then we had different guys who could, people that were really good at doing the in-game stuff, and then other people that were doing the graphic design out of the game. And this was the days of like the infancy of that transition into that, you know, blended approach. But certainly what Kells did, absolutely nailed it there, Sean. Coming along, no one had ever heard of him. And he was just like this tunnel vision guy. Movesets, textures inside the game. Like I've had the pleasure of getting some of his stuff. We used his Dean Malenko as a base for.
I mean, they were complete creations from head to toe. They weren't just like generic movesets and no entrance. Like it was the works.
The attention to detail was incredible, and arenas. Let's not forget. You know, he did arenas too. Yeah. And you're just like, does this guy sleep? But what he didn't have was, you know, he didn't have the network, he didn't have the following, and he didn't have the upload slots either, right? Because
of course.
He was rotating creations.
Yeah. And how many profiles can you create at once?
Right.
And this is it. So yeah, we saw what he did, and then Carl, who is Defract, who's been my long time kind of call brother, we've kind of helped each other out. He was teasing, doing some ECW stuff. I've always been a massive fan. You know, Dre, you know, you and I have always been putting the work in on the ECW days. Yep. Can I just say, Dre, the original paint tool king, going back, like the work he put into those ECW logos. I was just like, how does this guy do? You know, before we were using our thumbs to text, this guy was using his thumbs for absolute gold on Xbox 360.
It was terrible.
Dude, I mean, you were ahead of your time in co-creating with that paint tool in game, Dre, whether you like it or not. I mean, it was an impressive body of work, dude.
I mean, I say this all the time. It was like when I first got the game, I said, I'm not going to play it. I'm literally going to go into paint tool and draw Brock Lesnar's tattoo. And until I get it right, I'm not doing nothing else with the game. And literally that's what it did. I just sat down, and this was early 20s. I'm just, all right, I'm going to get it. And I just sat down in my room, like, and just figured it out. Honestly, it was crazy, but it took what, 2 hours? 2 hours.
It's counting blocks on the screen, right?
Yeah,
gritting everything.
It's insane, meticulous work.
Yeah,
but this is it. It's a labor of love, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. And it was just like, and I felt like, and you know, just to go back a little bit, you know, me jumping into like the call creating like actual wrestlers, because before that I didn't create real wrestlers. I created all made up people. I didn't really, you know, worry about paint tool and stuff because we didn't have that. And it was just like when I jumped into the world of, you know, actual call creating and you know, calls.ws, because I knew people did not like me back in the day. I knew because I didn't know the rules. I didn't know the credit.
You were the first coming of Kells back in the day during the gatekeeping, as we were talking about, where the community wasn't an open community. So it was almost like when you saw another call creator come out that's putting out, you know, top tier work, you're kind of like, who the heck is this guy?
Yeah.
And it's almost like, you know, okay, competition, as opposed to now, you know, I don't know, 10 years later, when Kells does that, the community is more open armed and receiving. So I think that's the difference. I think it was just the time in which you guys hit the game and the community being a little bit more accepting of new talent.
Yeah. It's not just that though. It's, you know, the forums back then, you know, you had to work to find those forums, you know, and then you had to work to keep track of what was going on. If I was on Xbox 360, I wasn't looking in the PlayStation channel. But now, if everything's on social media, it's on Twitter, the chances of you seeing something crazy outside of your comfort zone from a creator you never know, it's right there. And it is this like beautiful little echo chamber where anything can happen. And I see original creations that I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to give this guy a massive dub, because like the guys on the originals now, it's like, how do you even come up with that? The mapping on those types must be like, oh,
insane.
Yeah. You know, so yeah, we can all learn from each other. And with ECW, Carl wanted to do that, and I was like, hell yeah, I've already got half of them. And we just kind of, what's that Rick and Morty episode where they get a heist team together, right? It's kind of like that, like gotta get the gang back together. And we brought in arena guys, and we brought in some new blood, and then of course we've got Righteous, who doesn't even play on that platform. You know what I mean? He's not even got a PlayStation. He was like, hell yeah, I'll contribute, and that's like the selfless veteran mentality that a lot of us have got now. And you see people using Patreon to just have an open source for like any textures that they make. Say, hey, just go crazy and do it. So it's a maturity thing as well. And to your point, Trey, I was a kid in my early 20s back then, 16 years ago. And yeah, you're interacting with people across the world with weird attitudes. So much nuance of conversation is like lost through text as well.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah,
you would never talk to people the way that you talk to in text. And because it's like written down, it's almost got more weight to it than if it was like some daft little kid saying it to you in real
you're
life,
reading it in your own context. You know what I mean? You're hearing it how your mind wants to hear it, not necessarily how the person who said it meant for it to sound. So
yeah, but at the same time, there's also a lot of dickheads out there.
Yeah, in abundance. Tell us a little bit about the creative process behind these projects. Did you guys have like Zoom team meetings or like parties where you guys literally had like a meeting and went to the drawing board with ideas and figured out who's going to do what?
No, and I wish we had, because I would, we're an international team. We've got guys in Italy and Spain and the UK and across America, and Skunky Pants.
Yeah. That's a hell of a screen name.
And I love his avatar because it's just a pair of jeans with a skunk tail.
Yeah.
So it's like cool.
Yeah.
He's in Canada, but we never did that. We just had a Discord channel, and we're like, cool, this is the manifesto. Are you in? What do you think you can do? And then you get a spreadsheet, you put a roster together, you start allocating who's going to be the lead.
Yeah.
Like it's very fluid in terms of collaboration, because it's not like this is my creation. It's like, cool, I'm going to start this. So someone might put the face texture on something and get some basic morph, then send it over to me for tweaks and attire, and then someone else might jump in with grab it and do movesets and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like I would never go back to just try and doing something by myself now. I've done this stuff start to finish by myself, and you miss out on a lot of innovation and expertise by it's great to be solo and to be innovative yourself, but sharing the glory and sharing the process is a lot of fun, because you challenge each other, and yourself, if you've created something, you go back to it 6 months later, you think, oh, I should have done this, and this little bit could be that happens in the process before it even gets previewed.
Finished.
So instead, the interesting thing is, back on the forums, you would have a channel for your creation, and people would see the process, like preview pics, get suggestions, and then kind of work through it. But we kind of keep that in-house now, and then when the preview hits, it's a finished product, and people are like, oh shit, and there's never any feedback. And there's a good and bad from that, because you do want feedback, but also a lot of people on Twitter are just fans, right? They're not creators.
They're not going to tell you. They're just I'm ready for you to upload it, basically.
Yeah. And there's so many people who will just say, that's amazing, that's awesome, when it's not finished. And that can be harmful as well, because then you get that ego thing where you're like, oh, well, it's done. And you don't start second guessing yourself. You know, you got to keep the sword sharp and always challenge it.
Now, was there any ever like bidding wars on, hey, I really want to do this creation, and somebody else was like, no, that's mine? Like, did you have any stories like that where, you know, things might have got heated?
Oh, of course. I mean, my role was, you know, I was like the project manager, but I was also like HR. I was human resources. I was in everyone's DMs, like smoothing out any beef. And we had a situation when we were doing Raven, because Raven had to be in the first ECW pack. That's non-negotiable, right? And we were just having such a hard time getting Raven's face right. And our man Kevin Kuzmak, right? He took a swing at it. He's just the stuff. You know that he does all his stuff from his phone as well, like all his graphic design just from his phone. He's not got Photoshop or laptop. The stuff that he comes out with. I mean,
I'm surprised not more people do that, because that's how I
really,
honestly, that's how I do mine.
I use a very basic like background eraser and photo editor on my phone. I'm nowhere near as advanced as what you guys got going on. I still don't even really know how to like put together an actual texture. I can cut out someone's face and feather the edges and stuff like that, but I haven't ever even put like a real texture together, so I'm behind on that. Like, I'm just thinking of the stuff like I could learn just by watching some of you guys, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is how I learned a lot just over the years, picking stuff up and getting suggestions from people. But don't put yourself down like that, Sean. I've seen some of your recent stuff, man. You've got some skills.
Yeah, he put out stuff too.
Thanks.
I know. He had a Sid, and I was just like, "Ooh, I need to ask for that texture."
Oh, dude, the Sid you need to get is Executioner X's. I think that was released in the. Oh wait, you're on the green brand. Sorry.
Yeah.
You don't get to play.
Well, Sid was another one where about 3 guys wanted to make him, and Sid in ECW was like a cup of coffee. So it was weird that we were falling out over that. But yeah, I had to do some HR skills in there.
Yeah.
But you know, and that's maybe an interesting point, is like the transferable skills that you pick up from this work. You know, working with an international team and collaborating around different time schedules and life commitments, it gets you ready for a lot of other things that come at you in life. So, I mean, God, I've been doing this hobby for 16 years, and I've learned so much that I take into my day job, you know, and my relationships with people.
Yeah. I know one of the things I've learned from Wolfgang JT or Jeff, from sending him photos of my creations and me thinking in my head, this is almost final, this is good. And then he will hit me with, here's a photo, and he's like, just point by point, this is what needs to change, this is what needs to change this. And then I say, okay, so I'll come back, I'll try to do the adjustments that he'll say, and he'll be like, I think what happened is when you mapped the texture, you might have mapped it wrong, you need to start over. And that's gonna be one of the most frustrating things to hear. But when you think about, you know, putting hours into a creation and knowing that you need to start from scratch, it's humbling, right? And if you're open-minded enough to take that feedback, because sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm like, I'm too far, I don't want to do that. But sometimes I'm not stubborn, and I'll listen and I'll start from scratch, and I come up with something much better because of those growing pains that we all need to go through, right? And that's definitely transferable to real life.
Man, I can imagine the guys from the Indie Spirit are just laughing, because I'm the worst for pushing back when people telling me to, even if it's like the skin tone's too light or something.
Yeah.
Then I'm just like, no, but it's perfect. I'll never be able to recreate it. And I sometimes, you know, I'll make a video, a morph video, and upload it to myself unlisted on YouTube so I can replicate the morphing. Whereas some people are like placing face textures is my least favorite part of the process, and it kind of gives me anxiety because like every time you make a new creation, if you have got any kind of name or credibility, there's an expectation, there's a pressure that you put on yourself, and it all starts on the face texture. You know, if I make Alex Shelley, he could be wearing a chicken costume. If the face is the face, then that is him, right? His attires will change, his body could change.
Right.
But like, if you know, if you show me I saw, you know, Bobby Fischer's got a new sleeve of tattoos, right? So you can't use the 2K19 model if you're that neurotic about, you know, up-to-date stuff. And you know, he's like, right, it's got the attire and it's got a tattoo, but the face is like some guy on the street called Jimmy. You know, I don't know this guy. So it's like, well, what happens when the attire is outdated and it gets new tattoos? That model is not useful. So I've always put a lot of time into that. I learned from Dr. Fries, who is another legend from Germany, and his brother, the No Modder. You know, those guys were the meticulous about what they can do in terms of morphing in game. And I will spend hours and hours over people's eye shape. Like I have looked, Jerry Lynn is one of my top boys. I have stared Jerry Lynn's in the face, looking at the curvature of the bottom of his eyelid. So many nights. There was one night where I stayed up all night till 6 in the morning. I actually thought I was like some kind of divine entity, like a god, and I was actually shaping this man. I was like creating man. And then, you know, you go car blind and you're sleep deprived, and you're like, I think
car blind. That's a real thing. I just experienced that recently.
Yeah.
You know, you look at for something for too long and you don't see it anymore, and then you end up over tweaking it. This is why. Okay, anybody starting out creating, whenever you're at a place that you like, save it and duplicate it and make changes to the new model, because if you over tweak and can't go back, you're gonna kick yourself.
Yeah. I actually have something just like that. Carmelo Hayes. I created him when he was Christian Casanova. All right. Now I held on to that call for months. For months, I did not want to release him. I just let people know I created him, and I'm just holding on to him. Right. This is before he even got his new tattoo in NXT. I remember going to an indie show and seeing him chill next to the bleachers after his match and saying what's up to him. So it's like I actually interacted with him, and it was crazy because it was just like I could not find a picture of his face. I couldn't find a clear picture of his face to make a face texture out of, and I was like, I cannot upload him with this nonsense one that I have currently. So it was just like months, and then like when he got signed, I was like, ooh, he got signed to WWE. He gonna take profile pictures. Okay, good. I'm gonna be able to find something.
Yeah.
And literally, I held on to him for like 6 months before I even uploaded him. Has there ever been a case where you held on to a call for an extended period of time to make sure he was right, or he or she was right before uploading them?
No. And this like, just no. Like I'm not one of these guys that's got like 50 work in progress guys called the superstar and they're safe. Like when I'm making someone, I'm like tunnel vision on that person. Like I live and breathe them. I study how they move. I watch their matches. And prior to these projects where we had to multitask, I was just like tunnel vision, laser focus on a creation and then get it released. So like I sympathize. I feel sorry because that's a long time to have like you know, a baby in your arm that you're trying to nurture. But yeah, I mean, there's been times where you just can't get a picture of a tattoo or something. Yeah. And then when we put together the ECW team, we brought in Enzo Folgor, who is a soldier and a legend, and we call him the king of refs, right? Because this guy, you want to find someone, he will find a picture of them. He will find whatever you need. I mean, we were trying to find some niche piece of clothing or something, and he just within like an hour had a full picture front and back of this thing. And it's like he was wearing it. You know, he's walking around the house with like some ECW attire from 2001, and you know, you kind of need those people that will go, like they'll go to Joel Gertner's Facebook, they'll find his Facebook page, and they'll find a front-on picture of him to get his eye shape. That's what you need. But yeah, certainly with some of these guys now. I mean, back in the day, we didn't have Google Images. You know,
No,
we
of
just
course
didn't
not.
have it. We didn't have Instagram attire creators that would post the perfect pictures of these attires.
Right.
And
True.
you know, going back to what we were saying about Paint Tool, before even that, you had to try and make designs with the images that were in the game, right? And you know, one of the best I ever saw was a Jeff Hardy T-shirt by Jeff Wolfgang. He somehow managed to get images from the game to look like a Hardy Boys T-shirt. It was like almost like a silhouette of Jeff Hardy, and you saw that, and it's just so much respect goes into that because you're planning the shape, you're thinking about what assets you have, and the fun thing about this game and the process is you're working within a very specific boundary, right? There's boundaries of what you can achieve in the game. There's a layer count. You know, there's certain hairstyles, and those boundaries are quite empowering because it's like I want to push those boundaries every time. I want to work within them, but continue to push them. And if you have carte blanche, like you know your friends at Virtual Basement, you know they're designing these guys with 360 scans, and they've got everything. Like there's no excuse for those not being perfect. But I quite like the I call it the compromise, like compromise. I quite like the compromises.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. It's good.
And how you can get around that, you know. So yeah, you know, it's challenging, and I think that's what keeps this hobby interesting. Is like you always want to have a new challenge. How can I do this? How can I make this look right? Given that I've got a 2D, you know, texture to put on to make it look 3D, for example. So yeah, I don't think I answered your question. I just completely went off track, but yeah, no, was my answer.
Well, going back a little bit, just to you know your earlier years, and I always ask these questions because it's always intriguing to know like where it started from. But you know, when did you first realize that you enjoy watching wrestling? What was the first match, if you remember, or the first wrestlers that you've seen?
Yeah, I remember the first match I saw was a triple threat cage match between Ken Shamrock, The Rock, and Mankind.
Right down in your house, 98. Love
There
it.
you go. Whoa, Sean with the skills.
Yeah, buddy.
And you know, just the difference between those three characters. I mean, those were the days, man. People now don't know what it was like. And you know, Ken Shamrock's one of my top boys. Like I absolutely love him. So yeah, I got into it. But I mean, I'm not like a wrestling fan. You know, I don't watch. I never had in the UK. We've got a different situation with like the TV. So it's actually quite hard unless you buy sports channels to watch WWE or WWF as it was. I used to watch WCW Worldwide, which was like almost like their version of like Heat or something like that.
Yes, I remember.
When I was a kid, I mean, we only had 5 channels back when I was a kid, 4 for a while, and then we had that. So Goldberg was my boy. And I remember looking in like the Argos catalog, which is kind of like the Sears catalog, I guess. And that's when I discovered there was 2 brands, because on 2 different pages there was wrestling toys. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy with the face paint? And it was Sting, because I hadn't seen it before.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I was an Attitude Era guy. Loved Test. I think Test is massively underrated and underutilized. ECW Test, or WECW Test is one of my boys as well. So yeah, I was hooked by then, and then I think I had the ECW Acclaim game. I had WWF Warzone. I think the first call I probably made of a wrestler was when I got the ECW game and tried to make The Rock and Austin for some reason. They had no place in that ECW game.
Not at all. Not at all.
It must have been hard on that game.
Oh yeah, I mean that game was like you had to mash about 20 different button combinations to do a finisher. So you just got some groggy ass guy standing in front of you for ages, and then you're trying to put together like a whippersnapper or something. Yeah, that was my introduction to it. So Warzone, I guess, was my introduction to gaming on the PlayStation. Yeah.
All right, and have you gone to like any wrestling events, seen it live?
Yeah, totally. So there was a while in the UK where a promotion called Revolution Pro had a really good working relationship with New Japan and Ring of Honor, as well as like the up and coming Brits, like the British guys who now you see on TV, like Pete Dunne, Martin Stone, who's now Danny Burch in NXT. So I used to travel from Scotland down to London, which is like a 7-hour train to see a couple of Rev Pro shows. And the Elite came through there, Young Bucks and Omega. They were wrestling Swerve, and yeah, I mean, I went to TNA. The first UK TNA show was in Liverpool, right? And this is pre-Hogan and Bischoff, so this is like when TNA was proper red hot with like the IWC, Beer Money and the Dudley Boys, Motor City Machine Guns, who are my guys, Samoa Joe. And at the show that we were at, Gail Kim tagged with this guy I'd never seen before called Douglas Williams, and that was the night that he got his so he got his contract at that show. And Booker T was there, and they all came out in the crowd afterwards, Kurt Angle, and spoke to everyone. I remember speaking to Samoa Joe about Doug Williams and saying, "Why do you think you can do anything with this Doug Williams guy?" And Samoa Joe was like, "Yeah, I think he's going to be all right here," because obviously I didn't know about Ring of Honor and the legacy that they had before that. I just didn't have access to that kind of stuff back then. So my fandom is there. I'm so jealous. I've got a good friend who lives in Massachusetts. He's from Scotland, and just the other week he was at the Beyond Wrestling show where Alex Shelley went up against Daniel Garcia. And I'm a huge Alex Shelley mark. He's the king of the Indies right now for me. So that's got me really jealous.
That's a perfect segue into what we can talk about next. Now, we talked about your ECW project. You guys most recently have been doing the Indie Spirit project. What did you learn from the ECW project that helped you prepare for the tasks that you guys are now tackling with the Indie Spirit?
Okay, that's a great question. So the ECW project, everyone in it was like 100% committed at all times and absolutely gung-ho. And we got a lot of stuff out there quite quickly. We did 3 packs back to back. The International Stars pack, it had.
That's one of my favorite releases in that pack.
I mean, to get the Japanese talent and stuff, it's got nothing to do with ECW really, but yeah, the diversity of that stuff was incredible, and everyone in the team was just at the top of their game for that. And then when Indie Spirit came along, it was basically me seeing what Kevin was doing, what Cosmac was doing. I think he had a tweet that was like AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, and Low Key. Right?
Yeah, I remember those releases.
Previews of those creations. I was like, stop. This could be like the foundation of the X Division, because I already had Jerry Lynn, because we did him for ECW, and a couple of other guys, Kid Cash. There was transferable stuff to those early days, and I was like, what about if we did like the innovators that came after ECW, right? And then we always planned on doing Ring of Honor as well. We didn't expect it to become such a big thing, but what we learned was that the team, there was different levels of motivation at different times. So like Kevin was a huge part of those first 2 TNA packs. And then he had to take some time away for himself, and he just wasn't part of it. And what it taught me was how to manage people's commitments and expectations, and how to project manage and pick up the slack for people, and just meet people where they're at. It was very much, they were both very much a product of the pandemic, right? Where you had, you've got lockdowns and you've got craziness outside, and it felt like it wasn't so much a loss of freedom, but a loss of control in the world. And you very, very much had to try and find your own control in your own life. And I was drawn back to creating. I'd not done it for like a year. Luckily, 2K19 was still a game. So I was able to pick it up. But for all of us, it was like a sense of purpose and a sense of something that we could control, and a sense of escapism and distraction from the craziness that was happening at the peak of the pandemic. So it brought us together for like a brotherhood to work on something and to spread a little bit of joy to people when everything else was so joyless. And Independent Spirit just grew arms and legs. That is what we learned about ECW Lives actually is that we need to make a brand that WWE don't own. So
Yeah.
that's the main
Yeah.
thing, because we're talking about commercializing and monetizing anything, and maybe we can talk about how that's come into the community.
Sure.
Like, you know, ECW Lives was such a hot property and still is, but like we couldn't sell shirts, we couldn't sell merch, and if it got too big when we did a Patreon, you know, we're going to get a cease and desist from WWE. So independent spirit, it had to be something which wasn't just focused on one brand. It was something that was open to interpretation and open to other stuff. Obviously, we've done TNA, we've done ROH, we're looking at doing a deathmatch pack, and there's a lot that could come under that. But also, I see that brand as something that could potentially, if I've got any time to put any effort into it, cross over into something else, because the independent spirit is about innovation and entrepreneurship and creativity and being yourself and authenticity and going against the status quo, which is what all those wrestlers did and the innovators and those brands did. So I would love it to be more than just, you know, games projects. I know that like the independent mindset is now kind of toxic because of people kind of taking it the wrong way and, you know, anti-vaxxers and that kind of thing. So it's maybe not the best time to launch that brand.
Right.
But yeah, it taught me that you need to own your IP and you need to have something which can go in lots of different directions.
Yeah, that's a very valuable lesson.
I mean, I could say, like, as far as, you know, monetizing creations, that's an important thing, because I mean, you got to think, for a number of years we were all doing it for free. You know, hours upon hours of staring at pictures, references, reworking morphs, move sets, watching videos on entrances. It's a lot of work to make these calls. And it was just like, you know, the one thing that I did that people still get pissed off about is when I create a wrestler, I put my Twitter account under their name.
Right.
Every single time. Because it was like, I'm not getting no money off this. At least I can get some followers. You know what I'm
personal
saying?
branding.
Yeah. And then it's just like, you know, that's the reason why I wanted to start a Patreon. You know what I'm saying? Because I seen other people do it, and I was just like, you know what? I have years upon years of textures from 2015 that I started doing on my phone. Might as well just upload them. You know what I'm saying? And add to them. NBA 2K, I do textures on there, and also, you know, requested logos. And it's just like, you got to make your money. And as far as legal goes, I'm dealing with that right now with the wrestling code, because we're trying to do some things, and it's just like, we can't make certain things happen. You know, like attire wise, which I didn't even know existed. Like, you can, like, there's certain attires that we can't use. And it was just like, oh, they're copyrighted. Wow. Okay. So, like, for instance, just, you know, putting this out there, because eventually people are going to know, with Kurt Angle, you know, there's a reason why you never seen him with WWE gear in TNA.
Yeah.
You know, it was all original, you know, attires that he used. And it was like, okay, I just thought he just wanted to use a fresh set of attires. Yeah. That's not the case at all. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you learn about stuff like that, and you know, you want to market yourself as also a businessman as well as a creator. So I could definitely give you guys points on that one, because I mean, that's smart. You know what I'm saying? You get a bunch of talented people. You're not going to say, hey, let's just do this to upload it for free. No, you know.
Back when it was formulas and you had to write out the formula and put it online and take help picks, there was at least a shared process, and you knew that if someone was going to make that, they had to go through the same rigmarole as you, at least to get there. And now it's like, it's so easy to just get all this stuff and have a full save and absorb it and disregard the process. And there's a whole conversation out there on the internet which will rage on forever about paying artists for their work and like exposure as a currency and all that kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, look, I'll happily pay people for work that they've done. I've paid graphic designers in the past for stuff that I can't do. I've paid I paid Game Vault a tenner here and there if he's going to do an attire for me. Like, I'm happy to do that, and I think that's undervalued. If someone came to me and said, "Will you make a call for me?" I'm like, "Well, listen, I do this I would create for myself. I don't do it to get better into practice now. Like, I'm not at that stage. So it's going to be like $60 because, and that's cheap because that's like me making $4 an hour at the most. So yeah, I totally believe in that. And, you know, going back, we should have set up a Patreon. We should have done stuff where we can tease stuff to that audience. But it was so haphazard that it's like, let's set up the Ko-fi and see if people want to donate tips. And I think we've done like nearly $1,300 or $1,400 in tips across ECW and Indie Spirit. And some of them are like $7 tips, some of them are $20 tips, some of them are $50. So the people that want to pay can, and the people that don't want to pay can get it for free. So I don't believe in kind of keeping things behind paywalls. But of course, with community creations, you can't keep
everything's free.
Yeah.
The only people who get money is the developers.
And I think there's something to be said about the fact that, I mean, let's be real. This WWE 2K19 is going on 3 years now, right? People are buying this game because of the projects you've done, because of the creations Dre's made, because of some of the work that I've put out. Like, that is selling games 3 years after it's been released, and we don't see a dime of that. That's okay. I mean, I guess it's part of the deal, but to be able to become innovative in a way, and whether it's just getting yourself a coffee or whether it's, you know, I had to miss out on something because I was doing this, you know, or whatever, your time is valuable. And I think to find a way for a voluntary compensation from the consumer where they're not forced, but if they would like to recognize, hey, this took some sacrifice, this took some time, it's nice to be able to do that. And I do think it should become more of a regular thing.
Yeah. I mean, if you see I did a little video where it was myself speaking for the first time to the community, and I said, look, this. I
think I heard a little Easter egg at the end of that too. I don't know.
Oh, maybe. But yeah, what for Rising Sun? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's still rising, that sun, man. You know.
Yeah.
Different time zones and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first time I'd come out and said, look, if this has added value to your life, and we talked about the lockdowns, we talked about how this game has had a legacy. 2K20 came and went. 2K21 didn't happen. This new game has been delayed. Like, if we're helping you to scratch that wrestling game itch at the moment, and you understand the value in that, and the fact that you don't get DLC for 2K20, but what you do get is constantly updated and innovative creations from normal people who take time away from their family and their day jobs to provide this service.
Yeah.
Then if you met me in a bar, would you buy me a drink? Well, you know, you can't. So would you tip me? Would you drop me a tip? And that's a model that's based on soundness and respect and abundance. Like, if you've got the money to do it, then do it. If you don't have the money to do it, you can still consume this stuff anyway.
Right.
So, yeah, I think as you get older and you're less about impressing people, you do value your time more. You do understand what your skill set is. And it's all very well to be humble, but at the same time, it's like, man, all the guys I work with bust their ass to make this happen. We put deadlines on these releases.
Yeah.
And, you know, some guys are up till midnight uploading and switching saves to get stuff out there. I mean, that's work, man. I'm in Canva making showcase videos. It's like, and I love to do it because it's a passion project. But if that has helped you through the coronavirus pandemic, if it's provided value to your life, you know, drop us $7.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I do buy coffee with it. That's the funny thing. Like, I used to be a barista. I've got a tattoo of a coffee here on my arm.
Nice.
You know, I love coffee. I need 2 cups of coffee every single day, or I'm not a happy Nick. So, it all goes to a good place. It's a weird one because there was a time where it was really frowned upon, where people were charging for creations, and everyone was getting really squirrely and weird about it. But it's like, I
think if you can do it in a respectful way, like what you guys are doing, in a way that doesn't isolate a certain group of people who can't afford it, you know what I mean? And it's done fairly and it's done humbly, I don't think there's a problem in that. I did want to touch on burnout. We've all experienced it, right? when you guys are going through this project and you were talking about people's different levels of commitment, people needing to step away. What was that like? How was that addressed? Did you have alternates that would be ready? Because I've had burnout where I have had to step away from the game for 6 months at a time because I can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've all been there. Any artist, because I guess that's kind of what we are. Any creative is going to have that, and any person's going to have that in any walk of life, regardless of what their vocation is. We're always very open. I mentioned earlier that I have sometimes a bit of an HR point of view. So I'll be checking in on people. The lockdowns were tough for us in the UK. Obviously it was tough wherever you were, but everything was closed. It wasn't like that. So we've got quite a few UK guys that were having a rough time. They weren't able to see friends, and we all spoke quite openly about that, and then privately. So I built some great friendships from there, and we're always respectful of people's times and their primary commitments, right? Your primary commitments are to yourself and your own well-being. I always say you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And this is pouring because you're giving your own energy and yourself to strangers, and unless your cup is spilleth over with abundance, then you're not going to be in a good place. So we've had that. We've had times where someone's like, listen, I can't be fucked, and it's like, cool, well, someone else can pick up the reins if you're comfortable with that. And then the ECW Lives final pack we've had planned for like 6 or 7 months. In fact, probably nearly closer to a whole year we've been trying to do this. Nobody wants to make it. No one wants to do it. No one wants to do textures for Danny Doring's trunks. You know what I mean? Like, they're just not. I actually do have those textures, but it's like they're just like, I want to create for myself, and there's so many exciting things happening with AEW, for example, at the moment, that no one's like. When it starts feeling like work, that's when you're kind of you feel a weird obligation. So I myself and Carl run the Twitter account, and it's like we get these notifications. People are like, when is this coming out? When is it coming out? And it's like, you don't want to let people down, but at the same time, if you're not creating for yourself, it's a soulless process, and it's not enjoyable. And if you're not getting paid or remunerated in some way for it, even in a karmic sense, then it's kind of soul destroying to do that. So everyone's got to do it, but then there's going to be something exciting for you that will bring you back in. And if it means, to your point, Trey, if it means leaving a creation for 6 months and not doing it, but finding that spark and that love for the process in something else within the game, then go for it, and you never know where it's going to lead. I'm one of those guys, I can't have open tabs. I always need to have these tabs done. It pains me that I took like 20 creations from someone that sold their PlayStation 5, and they're sitting on one of my saves. I'm like, these are open tabs in my brain. I need to at some point address this. Burnout, it happens. But the way to get through it, I think, is just check in with yourself. What's working for me? What's not working for me? And what do I need? Those are the 3 questions I ask myself all the time. And in my day job with mentoring, young professionals and stuff like that, those 3 questions will cut to the core of where you're at and how you can get through some tough times.
Yeah, I mean, I could say this for sure. Being stuck with one wrestling game, for 3 years is a task, and keeping that excitement on. All right, who can I make? And having a game that has a 4-year-old move set, and it's just like these new moves you're not gonna see. You know what I'm saying? And it's difficult sometimes to really keep that focus and say, all right, I'm gonna make this person. Oh, I'm excited. They just signed this new guy. Oh, and then you're going through the move section. You're like, oh crap, they don't have their finisher. Oh crap, they don't have this attire part that you need, or a mask. Like for instance, the Lucha Brothers, they don't have their masks in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to use hair to make Penta's mask. Or just a flat texture. It's so many times, I think, for any call creator to really keep the momentum going. I think every call creator has had times where they just stopped and was just like, I got to step back for a second, and I agree. Like sometimes you gotta have that. You gotta recharge your batteries.
Yeah.
You can't keep going at it for forever. So my question that I have for you is, as far as being on the PlayStation side and getting these projects together, has there ever been a moment where you said, you know what, let me just go challenge myself and just step out of the box and just surprise people, or you have something in the stash that you don't have to say, but anything in the stash that you have where you're just like, ooh, this gonna blow them away. They wasn't even ready.
Oh, so many times we've had that. When we were putting together the International Stars pack for ECW, and we, it kind of started with the idea of doing Malenko and Guerrero, and then it was like, well, what if we do Great Suzuki? And what if we do this? And then because the marketing process was like, let's do daily reveals where we have a week of 4 different shots, and maybe in 2 of those shots is a new person.
That was fun. I enjoyed those.
Honestly, that engagement with the community and surprising people and getting those shots within the game, which is an art form in itself.
Yeah.
Like that process of us doing that, that's the fondness, that's the memories that I'll have of that work, was dropping into our screenshot channel like some crazy shit, and people be like, oh no, you've got Kai all of a sudden. And if you can pop the boys, right? You're a wrestler,
right.
So if you can pop the boys, that's the ultimate.
Yes.
So if you can pop other creators and your team that aren't expecting shit, that is the good stuff. So yeah, we had that a million times. And then I think when we in the Spirit X Division pack, when we were wrapping that up, the last guy that we revealed was Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
That
Nice.
X Division
Yeah.
innovator. And me and Kevin Kuzmak had been working on Nash, and we were like, they are not even expecting this. Like,
right.
four attire TNA Kevin Nash for Paparazzi Productions t-shirt, and then 3 attires with long hair, short hair, beard. When we did that, the date, I think it was the night before release as well, and I was just like, they're not even going to believe it. And people are like, oh, why is Michael Shane not getting this? Well, fuck Michael Shane, we got Kevin Nash.
Oh man, well, look into the future, and what's on the horizon for you guys next? Is there a rising sun somewhere out there that you guys are looking forward to tapping into, or?
Yeah, so I suppose one of the funnest things about these projects is we're sitting on so much fire at the moment, and it feels weird because it's just logistics in terms of getting it all together. But like the Rising Sun pack was an idea we had about, there's a lot of guys that are big Puro fans in the team, and I have to put my hands up, I'm not a massive Puro fan. When Alex Shelley was in New Japan, that's when I watched it. I hope Alex Shelley sees this. I think he's got me on mute because he doesn't like my tweets when I tag him. But there's some amazing stuff from Noah and even some Gaijins that made their name over there. I'm very excited about bringing that together. We've got Jenna, the arena creator.
Yes, he is nice.
Man, I mean,
his arenas and his stings are just
amazing.
It's incredible. I know he's changing the game, and we've talked about what the boundaries and the perimeters of the creation mode for characters, but like the 2D screens that he has, what him and Dan Selby, who's the ECW, and Skunky Pants, and Colin Judders, who's like an old school guy from the forums.
Oh yeah.
What these guys can do with perspective and stuff, and then to shrink those designs down to such, the pixels, and they put it there for it still to look good. Like some of the stuff, I'm going to drop. The next post from In the Spirit is going to be 4 arenas that Jenna's made for this next project, and you guys, there's one that I forgot even happened, like a brand crossover that people are going to get excited about because it might hint at what some of the wild creations might be that make the Rising Sun rosters. So that stuff excites me, man. And just being part of something which is bigger than me, where other people's talents are coming through, and all the guys come to me and say, thank you for this opportunity to be part of a team of like-minded people with different skill sets that complement, like guys with diverse skill sets. Jenna's a lawyer. You know what I mean? Like he's a lawyer in his day job, and he does this for fun. And for him to have elevated himself to where he's at now, and it's so cool to see, man. It's just such a nice thing to help bring out the best in people, but also to bask in their achievement as well. Is like really nice.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you get all walks of life. I mean, you from the outside looking in, I would think that most people would assume that most call creators are like in the basement of their mother's houses. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't have no real jobs, and all they do is just look at reference photos and create. And it was like, shoot, my full-time job in my early to mid 20s was working for an insurance company, processing short-term disability and FMLA claims. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like you get this all walks of life, and all these people are artists and creative people who all enjoy pro wrestling and want to add to it. But also to look forward as far as these projects go. With the next set of wrestling games, set to come out in the near future or in the future, what games are you looking forward to possibly adding these projects to?
Oh, and that's a big question, Dre. So, man, I mean, I don't know. Every single year, I think I'm not going to do it again. No, I'm not going to do it again. And then
we're all in denial, man. It's all right.
I know. And then just when I'm out, they pull me back in.
Yeah.
That AEW game's looking quite nice. I was thinking today about Here Comes the Pain and stuff like that when Ukes were properly involved.
Yeah.
And how good that was, and just how stifling I think the WWE corporate energy can be to the possibilities of these games. And what that means, and to your point, Trey, with the attire stuff, we all saw Edge's attire not looking right in previews, and I've had inside information that's WWE decision. So it's like, well, that's very confusing to me.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. I'm very excited to see the wrestling code. That roster is getting out of control, man. You guys need to just calm down, or this game will never be released.
Listen, I can't even listen. I get phone calls some days, and I'm just like, how? Like, how? Like, wait a minute. There's already enough. What are you doing? Like,
well, look, when they signed Kurt Angle, it was like when TNA signed Kurt Angle.
Huge.
It was the same thing. It's like, okay, well now it's undeniable now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, I mean, they told me from a while ago that it was just, all right, this is who we were trying to get this person. And, and it was just like, how are you going to get him? Like, in my mind, I'm just like, guys, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work, but if y'all can, then y'all got it. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, they're doing their thing. They're definitely doing their thing.
But it's indicative of the whole landscape in wrestling at the moment now, where it used to be you were locked into a contract and that's where you appeared. And now what AEW is doing with MLW and, the indies and the stuff with Dark, where people are getting shots, like my man Darius Lockhart popped up the other day. And it's like, this is how it should always have been. And we're conditioned to think it has to be, right, you work for us and you turn up on these nights and you wear this and you talk like this and that's wrestling. It's like, oh, no. Before there was a monopoly, it was exciting and there was opportunity and possibility and surprises. And bringing that into the gaming world is what call creators have always done. Right, you want to have someone that from the 1980s in your 2K series. Yeah, great, you can have that. So I think that's why so many wrestling fans and wrestling creators have reacted to this resurgence, because everything is exciting and nobody knows what's going to happen next. And I think I'll use that as my get out clause. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know where the rest of my team are. I don't want to have to buy a PS5, man. That looks like a fucking stress to try and get one of those things, to be honest.
I pulled the trigger and paid a little bit over retail for them. I don't want to talk about it, but
a little.
Man,
okay.
It's like in Squid Game where they're like harvesting organs, and I don't want to do that to get a console. You know, I mean, and the thing is, I'm not a gamer. I don't play other games. Like I play this game, and I've got a PlayStation 1 that I play Tony Hawk's 2 on. Okay, and those are my only 2 games. So for me to invest in that money for a console to, you know, fingers crossed that the AEW game and the new 2K game are good. It's like, that's a big outlay for me as a man who's got, you know, a wife and 2 kids. So who knows? I would love to be a mentor to the younger generation. You know, Wolfgang JT, you mentioned him giving, you know, like itemized feedback. That's how it used to be on the forums. Well, that's how it used to be. And, you know, I do give that feedback to people if they ask, if they come right, you know. You know, that is... I would love to pass that stuff on. I've been thinking about selling texture packs. If I don't create again, to say, right, here is the actual texture pack. Here's a video of how to place all this stuff and how to do the morphing, and it's like $15 or something for the whole thing. You know, I've been thinking about that because, like you say, Drew, you know, we've got decades of assets that are useful for people. And going back to the ECW stuff, it's like we were pulling up stuff from 1998, and, you know, like textures that you never thought people wanted, but then all of a sudden someone's like, oh, make sure Just Incredible's got that disgusting T-shirt with the hardcore icon. It's like, I've got pictures of that T-shirt. Don't worry, I've had them stored since 2005. It's fine. So who knows what's next? The world is all of our oysters.
Yeah, I mean, the one last thing that I wanted to ask you in regards to just the projects and everything like that goes is from the creative side, when you're deciding on attires or anything like that, is there any time where you said, all right, I want to make this, and I've had this happen to me, and it's not even so much of like a face texture but a tire thing where you're just roadblocked because they don't have the part in the game?
Oh man, I wish I got this question ahead of time because I would be able to properly think about it. Yeah, so many times. This is where the compromise comes in, right?
Yes.
And this is where the challenge comes in. I can't give you a specific example, but my friend Game Vault was in my DMs the other day trying to make that crazy Aleister Black like headdress thing that he's wearing. Not Aleister Black, sorry to dead name him. Is that what the kids call it these days? Yeah, I didn't dead name him. Malachi Black, right?
Yeah.
Is there dead naming in wrestling? There should be. If you're like, hey, Zack Ryder, it's like, whoa, man.
Oh man.
But he was showing me different things, and then I think that he eventually ended up using Brie Bella's checkered shirt that was tied around the waist, like as a belt part, and that really brought it together. So, like, there's always a way, there's always something, and your audience, your beneficiaries will always understand. I was trying to make a Alex Shelley Time Splitters New Japan attire where his attire was basically half of his attire and half of Kushida's attire, and he had one black boot and one white boot, and split down the middle. And that was a labor of love, but I got there in the end. It's like that to my day is my favorite creation, and if the rest of the team don't give me shit for trying to have too many white guys in the Rising Sun pack, you might get an updated version of that. We'll probably have to make Kushida to go along with it. Why is Kushida wearing trunks these days, by the way? Who is that what he has to get over with pictures?
It looks so dumb. I'm sorry.
He looks naked.
When you're not used to seeing a guy in trunks and they start wearing trunks, like you remember the first time you saw Chris Jericho in trunks? How weird was that?
God. Yeah, you're like, oh, it's so much flesh.
Yeah, it doesn't look right.
Oh man.
But to each his own. Another one, and this is like a sort of a speed round thing for you. Your top 3 creations.
Okay, top 3 creations for me. Monty Brown. I make him every game. I kill myself trying to make his body type and his trunks. The version I've got right now in 2K19 the top part of his trunks are design on skin, and so are the bottom bits of his legs because there's not trunks long enough for him. And also, like, not to derail this speed round too much, but like me and Monty Brown have become synonymous, and it's so weird. You know, a former NHL guy from Detroit and some white guy from Scotland. We're now, you know, we're joined. We're kindred spirits. He doesn't know this, but we are. You know, and you know, I feel like in some way I've kept his legacy alive and kept him relevant by having like what I think is a good creation of him in every single game. So. And that's another one where it's like the pounce is not in the game. You know what I mean? Like his pounce is, and neither is the alpha bomb, which is such a great finisher. I'm surprised that no one's using it right now. So yeah, Marty Brown. Do you know what? Jordan Devlin. I worked on a Jordan Devlin creation this year with a guy called Wimpy Cause, and that was a case of me seeing this guy who this creator. Not a huge following, but a really nice guy. And he was onto something with this creation. So I was like, humbly slid into his DMs and was like, look, man, I think you're onto something. If you want his support or you want to collaborate, you don't have to give me credit if you don't want to. I just want to like help you on the way with this and make this as good as it can be. And it came out shit hot. And then I went back and updated it with like a pinstripe track top and stuff. Like I think we've even got bum textures where it's like, you can see the cheeks underneath his trunks. That was Wimpy that did that. So for TK19, I'm going to put him in there. And then my third, I want to say Alex Shelley, but I'm going to go with Jerry Lynn. And the theme with the guys who are my top guys is like, I always like the guys who are innovative and are underappreciated, right? So Alex Shelley, definitely Jerry Lynn. Everyone says Jerry Lynn's underrated. If everyone's saying that, surely he's rated. I don't know. Right? But yeah, we made a really good one of him, and I made all his attires from ECW through TNA, Ring of Honor, and even like a short-haired retirement one. And you know, he's a really easy guy to get wrong. You think you just put strangler hair and a little goatee on him, and you know, don't do a good job on those classic yellow ECW pants. But yeah, it's a labor of love to make him, and him and Lance Storm are two wrestlers that always appreciate the creations and retweet it and like that. And you must think the guys today, like, I don't know, imagine if in WWE or AEW they've had meetings about whether or not you can put over core creations, because we're at the stage now where the guys that are wrestling on TV, we're making and you know, absorbing cause themselves when they're growing up. So does Vince sit down and say, right, you can't put over this creation of yourself, or if you're in TNA, don't put over a WWE game,
exactly,
right? Because so, and these are the conversations which I would love to know are happening. And I've seen people retweet stuff, and you're like, yeah, but is your company cool with that? You don't want to get buried on TV because you retweeted a code yourself.
Right.
So yeah, those would be my top three. And yeah, I'm always just proud of my boys, Jerry Lynn, Monty Brown, Alex Shelley. Anything I can do to make people download them. The biggest compliment I can get is when someone replies to me uploading a creation and said, oh, I had no plans of having them on my save, but that creation is too good not to have. That is like the best. Because then you know that they're gonna, that wrestler's now on their peripheral, and they might go out their way to catch up on some matches, so they might follow their career but still going. And that kind of helps me feel part of it and to be part of something bigger than myself. And the final point I want to make is like the most exciting part for me is to know that for years now, wrestling fans around the world have downloaded and enjoyed something that some Scottish guy they'd never met did in their living room after they put the kids to bed. Like, that is so humbling to go to wrestling shows and think, how many people in this audience have downloaded and enjoyed my work? And they will never know. They will never know. They'll never know me. I'm not going to go with like a sign that's like, hi, I am at Nick Breaker.
I am the Nick Breaker.
Maybe you should. That's maybe the way to monetize stuff.
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Never know.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing to be part of, man. And I'm at that stage in my life now where I'm just trying to be grateful for anything that I've done and has come my way. So I'm thankful to be part of this community. I'm thankful to finally put a face to the name to you two men. And yeah, maybe the real game was all the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, man. Well, let us know where people can find you, your socials and stuff like that.
Okay, so I'm at Nick Breaker NCO on Twitter. That's the best place to get me. I've had to go into Instagram now. I kind of feel like there's a good market there to try and soak up some of that stuff. There's a guy called 2K Attire there that's got like 37,000 followers or something.
Yes.
Follow at Extreme Lives, which is XTRM Lives. Or don't, because we might not get that final pack out, so don't hold me to it. But definitely follow at Independent Spirits. We've got a PWT's store now.
Link in the description below.
Yeah, there you go. Just like that in the future. Get yourself some merch. And yeah, if any of my stuff has ever added value to your life, then please let me know. My daughter just passed me this.
I love it. Well, dude, thank you so much for taking time out of your afternoon and away from your family to talk to us today, dude. We appreciate it.
Guys, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure. You guys are the benchmark for this kind of presentation, so thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. All the links in the comment section, in the description below to follow Nick Breaker. Other than that, stay safe. Catch you guys on the next episode.
Later.